So the ENCORE tool, basically it has been used in many applications around assessing financial effects, around impacts and dependencies within portfolios, but also for industries, sectors. I'll give you just the starting page, how it looks when you enter it. It's like this. You can log into the tool by creating your own account. I think you have more applications and uses once you do this. But basically what it does is it brings you to this dashboard where you can have a module that visualizes the links between the economy and nature, and then there's a biodiversity module exploring portfolio alignment with biodiversity goals. This is a bit more abstract with the star matrix related to species threat status. We are not going to look too much into that right now. We will focus in the exercise more on the more basic or the general application of the ENCORE tool. So once you logged in, you can access the tool here. You can get started directly. And basically what it does is you can select here an economic sector based on ISIC classification. It's a bit slow. And it will basically show you typical impacts and dependencies for those sectors. Here it is now. And here you can select from various sectors that are listed according to the ISIC classifications. I have now selected manufacture of motor vehicles, and then there are subclasses. For some it makes sense to choose a subclass as well. I choose here the motor vehicles, and here's the result. Basically for this sector it shows that there are dependencies on 14 ecosystem services and pressures in particular related to 2 out of 13 aspects. And yeah, we have here the overview of the dependencies rated according to very high to very low, and then the various ecosystem services are listed here, which ones have a medium materiality rating for that sector or a low. There's none with a very high rating. So you can assess, okay, my sector has a medium materiality rating for flood mitigation services. The example I've shown before falls into that category, that the site producing parts for automotive industries in Slovenia, they would fall under this category. That there's definitely the chance that some of the sites where these productions happen can be exposed to flood risks. And then we have also an overview of the most material pressures. So disturbances seem to be very high in some places. Then of course emissions of toxic pollutants. Rather low is the area of land use. Well, it's not an agricultural production which cover a large, huge area, but it's more often these sites are in particular areas. So land use is not the main business of this production. So that's why land use comes in rather low. And then based on the score, you can also save this and export this. You can also look at flows. I like this graph where it shows you how is my manufacturing of the motor vehicles related to particular ecosystem services, dependencies. So there are all these various ecosystem services listed here, and how they relate to particular aspects of nature. So on water, atmosphere, soils, particular species dependencies, or more structural aspects of nature. And you see that overall it's a quite large range of different ecosystem services one can depend on, and the same you can also look at in terms of impacts. Also here the different impact categories being shown that play a role, and how they impact then different aspects of nature. And then also the value chain downstream and upstream of your operations can be assessed in this terms. You can identify what are certain economic sectors that are relevant downstream with their impacts and dependencies, but then also upstream, what are economic sectors that play a role in your production. And of course these sectors with their respective impact and dependencies can be then assessed. So this is just now for the automotive sector, and then if you would do this for the entire portfolio, where you have maybe 20 sectors, you would then do this for all of those 20 sectors, and this would then help you to generate an overall impact and dependency rating for that portfolio, for example. So that's the basic idea of the ENCORE tool.
Just a quick note on the ENCORE tool again. So what Johannes has showed you, you have to log in for that, I think, to see the more detailed information. So without login, you can still search by sector and division, and then you still see the dependencies and impacts. Yes, but I think the registration is not for free for the ENCORE, right? It's free? Okay. Okay. So yes, so then we can have a look at the WWF risk filter. Yes, so this is now to identify and assess the nature-related risks. Sorry, it's back. Yes, on a location level. So on WWF, I will show it to you on the website. You have 4 modules: the Inform, Explore, Assess, and Act. For our group work, we will use the Assess module, but Inform is it's based on the ENCORE tool as well. It shows the impacts and dependencies for high-risk sectors. The Explore shows high-risk locations, and then in the Assess module, you can then assess or identify and prioritize the nature-related risks. And there's also a 4th module, the ACT module. This is still under development, and this will then later support identifying actions for risk mitigation. But also on Thursday there is Jochen Grimphoff from WWF coming, and he will also add a little bit on that and also what's still under development. Yes, so in the Inform module, where you can, I said already, it's based on the ENCORE as well. There you can look again for the dependencies and impacts on sector level. It's based on 25 industry sectors, and you can get a score ranging from 1 to 5. As the ENCORE, it's also derived from the ISIC classification. And it's also based on the 4 ecosystem services categories that we already talked about it today. So the provisioning, the regulation, supporting, and cultural services. And then the Explore module is then really analyzing the state of biodiversity of a certain location that you want to assess. And behind that module, there is a 70+ global data set on the local state of biodiversity. And again, you will get a score from 1 to 5, so from very low to very high biodiversity intactness of like a site that you want to assess. And then we will have now a look at the Assess module, where you then really assess your local biodiversity risks. And there is the score from the ENCORE module plus the score from the EXPLORE module together, calculated and then divided by 2. And I now show you how the WWF risk filter looks. So here you also have to log in. The INFORM and the EXPLORE module you can access without login, but for the assess you need a login, but this is for free, very easy. Just put in your data, you get an email, and then you have to confirm the link. And then here you click on Biodiversity Risk Filter, and then you go to the Portfolio Manager. So this is where you have to put in your company, the information on the company level, and then also the information on the site of the company that you want to access. So then you start here. We can just call it now test 1. Yes, and then you can add the sites. So you have to connect it with the company you created. Then let's call it again test 1. Then you can put in here the industry. So for example, agriculture plant products. Then only for agriculture you can also put in a commodity. So for example, if you have, it's about coffee production, you can put in coffee. And then group is optional. For example, this is then along the value chain. So for example here, if it's really like a coffee bean farm, you can put here the first step of the value chain, the raw materials, and then business importance, and here for example is high. And now this is very special about the WWF, that you can put in here the location. So here you need the coordinates for your site, and you can easily do that with Google Maps. So for example, we choose Marseille today. And then here by right click, you can copy the coordinates. The only thing is that it's in the wrong direction. So here it's latitude first and then longitude. So for the WWF, you have to switch this. I know, yes, I know. But for the group, yes, good point. You can write Marseille in the location here. But for the group work, I gave you coordinates. So I just wanted to show you, if you have like coordinates, how to do that. And then you can click on search and add.
Yeah, the difference with the coordinates is that we are very, very specific, no? Because if you would type in Marseille, then it's the whole city, but you can choose with the coordinates really specific location in Marseille as such, for example, right? So I think this is the advantage really of using like the coordinations.
Yes. Yeah, and then you have created your site, and then it's very easy. You can click here on Analyze Biodiversity. And then you can see here that you receive risk scores for physical risk and reputational risk. So this is the average of all risk indicators under the physical risk, and here for the reputational risk. So here in Marseille you can see, so I first show you the levels. So it's from 1 to 5. So 4 is in the red area, very high. So in Marseille we have high physical risk actually. So this is the first overview. And then here you can even see the individual risk categories. You can click here, for example, to see your top 10 indicators. Here, for example, so the top risk is media scrutiny, or protected and conserved areas, and so on. Pollution is also here, water availability, pollination, soil condition. And then to get more details, you click here on scape risk. And then for each, so for the risk type, physical risk and reputational risk, this is then also again divided into the risk categories, which are based on the ecosystem services. And then you have also here single indicators. So for example, physical risk, provisioning services, one is water, of course, and the water availability here is also, has also a high risk score. And then you can just scroll here and have a look at all your risks. I think there are 33 risk indicators in the WWF. And you can even export it to Excel. This is the first overview of the WWF. And then I would go to the group work and show you what your task is. I think some things may be more clear after you're working on the group work, and then you really also work with the tools. And I'm sure there might be some challenges that we can then discuss afterwards. So the group work is actually that you're obviously part of a development bank, and you're considering potential investments in 4 projects across different sectors and regions. So we will separate you in 4 groups. Each one of you will get 1 project. And before proceeding, the bank wants to conduct a nature-related assessment, what we talked about today a lot. So identifying the dependencies and impacts, which of these interactions are most material, and then also what are the location-specific biodiversity risks. Okay, so group number 1, if you could come to the front and present your results.
So our company is a cocoa processing facility in Brazil. It's in agri-food sector. We are financing a mid-sized cocoa processing company. We are financing the expansion of a cocoa processing company. And the company sources cocoa beans from the Norby farms and cooperatives and plans to increase the capacity to meet export demand. The facility is located in an agricultural landscape near remaining fragments of the Atlantic forest, a region with high biodiversity value and a history of land use. The project aims to enhance local value creation and strengthen regional supply chains in a key export sector. So we used ENCORE and we identified 12 dependencies on ecosystem services and 4 pressures. The dependency, we have 1 very high materiality for the water purification services and 2 high materiality for the water flow regulation services and water supply. As for the dependent impacts, we don't have any very high or high impacts. And we use the WWF risk filter, and according to our top 10 indicators, the water availability is common in both tools, and there is an addition of limited wild flora and fauna availability and the media scrutiny risk for our company. So I'm giving the word.
So thank you. So we were not sure that the media scrutiny would be a nature risk, but but still it is there. So we rather tried to influence the 2 other topics. First of all, the water availability, which is of key concern. And encouraging as bank the company, if they wanted really to expand, and to limit the media scrutiny, to find some solution to reduce the water use locally, either from the processing plant, either from using the existing water that could be available in the region. And the second was limited wild flora and fauna availability. We are in the land use, which has in a land where there is a land use history, but where we are aware that there is a high biodiversity value. So we would encourage the company to restore the site with the cooperation of the farmers and the cooperatives with which they are working, offering them potentially to act as to look after a label in terms of production, to secure the way the cacao is produced, and to offer them to join the capital and shareholding agreement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Were there any challenges that you faced now using the tools, or what is your experience now with it?
I think it's very, very helpful and very, very friendly. What we need to understand, I need to understand for the ENCORE how we can have the summary. But now I believe that it's very useful. They are both very useful, and that made us think about another tool we are using internally, which is a climate screening tool for the investment officers to assess at an early stage what could be the 8 major level of risk on climate change with related nature-based solutions. And I believe that on biodiversity it will be of interest to have similar exercise because I think it makes really people getting aware of water dependencies and water pressures and what could be solutions as well. So, yeah, no, good. Thank you for this share.
Thank you very much. Any comments, questions from you or from the audience? No, then thank you very much. Then we can continue with group number 2, who had project 2.
Hi everybody. So I'm speaking on behalf of group 2. We had an solar panel company in Uganda, and so we had a low battery, so not a lot of. We didn't do slides or anything, so I will just say from what I remember. We had 2 main risks from the WWF risk suite, and it was on land use, which we were assuming would be a thing with solar panel, and reputational risk was also ranked high. Although the reputational risk was not qualified, like we didn't know what was the risk in terms of reputation. So we could only assume for that one. And then going back to the ENCORE dependencies and impacts, it was, so dependencies were high with water in terms of provisioning ecosystem services, sorry. And then the impacts were all classified low materiality, and so they were like in the list, but it was not a big, big impact, it seems. So yeah, that's it. And in terms of questions or doubts, we were a bit confused because when we looked at the risk filter map for WWF, water availability was low risk, but then drought was very high. So we were confused if it was like the tool giving incorrect information, or if there was some kind of logic behind that, but we were not like fully informed to understand, I feel. for that one. So water availability for our specific location in Uganda, and we also inform what type of business we had, right? Like solar panels. So from what I understood, when you are in the assess section, it already crosses all of this information together. And so water availability was low risk, but then drought was very high risk. And yeah, I would assume that maybe there is no problem in terms of water availability for our type of activity, industrial activity, but there's maybe systemic drought risk. I don't know.
Yeah, I would have to look into this also myself, but I assume that maybe the drought risk might be related more to climate-related risks, and water risk is more related to the locally specific setting of that watershed, because I know they are using the aqueduct database for water availability, and that's on the watershed level. So maybe there are differences between this more overall climate risk and the more locally specific water stress risk. But that's only guessing. I would have to look into the details. Yeah.
Anything else that I missed?
Okay, then we can continue with group number 3. It was the industrial infrastructure project.
Okay, so our project was about the realization of an industrial development park in the southeastern part of Turkey, near Gaziantep. And the purpose of the project is to support local small medium enterprises, create jobs and attract investment. This park would be realized in a dryland region near agricultural land that is currently exploited by local community and near areas of ecological interest. So there are dependencies from the local communities on these on the local natural resources for their livelihoods. First, we identified through the ENCORE platform the impacts, and we have entered as a sector the construction, because it's a greenfield investment. So first thing is to raise up the parks, which comprise of buildings, specialized constructions, and so on. And what we identified is the first class of impacts with the highest risk rating was the emissions of toxic pollutants to water and soil. As you can see, 3 out of 4 activity groups and classes scored high on the materiality rating. And moving on, also freshwater use scores as medium, but as we know, it's a dryland region, so this has to be kept in mind. And emissions of GHG, again, medium materiality rating, and generation of and release of solid waste, of course, because construction activities implies heavy generation of solid waste. And then, of course, disturbances in terms of noise and light. We have also identified a few dependencies on the on nature of these activities. For example, rainfall pattern may influence the activities, and there is very high materiality rating that this could happen. Water supply again, and the global climate. So this is an overview of the project site. As you can see, it falls under dark orange sector, so it's the risk category, the WWF risk category is medium for both physical and reputational risk. And through the WWF platform, we also identified that there is one natural site that may be directly impacted, which is the river ecosystem of Tigris and Euphrates. And this is a summary of the indicators and their risks. So top, we have the provisioning services. Again, water is a critical issue of this project. And so, yes, we have identified two priority nature-related risks. First, again, is linked to the water, because we expect that the demand for water is currently high and maybe higher in the future when the construction starts. And this may impact and jeopardize the areas of ecological interest and the livelihoods of the local farmers and communities. And secondly, high risks in terms of emissions of pollutants and toxic substances to water and soil. Recommendations. The bank could introduce a conditionality for the disbursement linked to the adoption of water conservation measures, making sure that the net effect is still positive for the local ecosystems and human systems, and also impose or recommend the contractor to adopt equipment to abate the pollution emissions. Yeah. That's it.
Thank you very much. Yes. Very good work. Then we can continue with the last project, Group 4.
Financing the modernization of several textile manufacturing facilities in Bangladesh, essentially to improve production efficiency and competitiveness, considering high employment opportunities. The thing was that manufacturing was close to rivers and wetlands, so quite expectedly, dependencies was definitely high on water provision services, and also aids regulating and maintenance services was water related. That was pretty consistent also with the risk that has been assessed, which was mostly related to water but also pollution, leading to equal score in terms of physical risk but also reputational risk, essentially because Bangladesh is a highly exposed location for very famous textile producers. So this project definitely brought to some kind of high risk in terms of financing the modernization, considering high pressure on water supply, and also potentially risk in terms of lack of regulation at the national level, not quite aligned with, I would say, best standard, including EU1 on chemicals, especially in the sector. Potential recommendation that could be done include first ensure compliance with best standard regulation on chemicals to avoid downstream pollutions. Then ensuring that the project will also include investment and technologies that will reduce water losses and leakages and potentially reduce consumption. So having water smart processes. But that is still, I would say, the policy risk still seems pretty high. So that could also be including, I would say, impact-linked condition to reduce pressure on external ecosystem, especially groundwater sources, which is usually the first source of supply for this kind of industry, and contribute to protection and restoration of surrounding ecosystem, and investing in alternative water supply system like water harvesting, but that would rather be an emergency measure considering the high consumption of water in this industry.
Okay, then thank you everyone for joining our group work, and yeah, I hope that you can use the tools also now in your work.